Well, let's go back to Labour now. Another one of their appalling failures is, of course, the migrant crisis. In just 3 days, towards the end of last week, I think it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, more than 1,000 migrants came across the Channel in a number of small boats, all illegally, against the law. You're not allowed to come across the Channel and land on our beaches in illegal vessels. That is against the law, but for some reason, we just say, it's okay, you broke our laws, but welcome. Welcome to the country, lawbreakers. Great to have you here. That's what we do. Oh, have 45 quid a week. And a free hotel, 4 stars, free food. You know, free lawyers, free doctors, free dentists. Please, come. You're going to love it here. 45 quid a week we give that lot, apart from anything else. Free accommodation, free food, free doctors, free dentists, free lawyers to fight their case to stay here. It, folks, is utter insanity. But our Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, has been in Italy visiting their leader, Giorgio Meloni, who has, of course, been pretty successful in stopping the migrants coming to her country. She's done deals with Libya and Tunisia to stop the boats leaving the north coast of Africa, stopping them coming to Italy, and when they do get to, if they do get to Italy, she ships them straight to Albania for processing. The migrants are getting the message. If you go to Italy, it doesn't work out for you. You don't get to stay. It's called a deterrent. Whereas here, no deterrent whatsoever. But of course, we're being fed headline pulp like, you know, that Yvette's very interested in Georgia's mafia-style tackling of the migrant crisis. Mafia because she's in Italy. But Yvette Cooper isn't interested in any form of tackling the migrant crisis, evidently, because she's not doing anything at all. And pointedly, she's still refusing. She was asked yesterday, particularly by Laura Kunsberg on the BBC, are you going to put a number on it? Are you going to put a migrant cap? And how many, you want to reduce it? What's the number? What do you reduce it to? Oh, well, that's not helpful. It's too complicated for that. No, it's not. It's not too complicated. And by the way, Yvette, what on earth is your £150 million border security commander actually doing? Supposed to smash the people smuggling gangs. Caught any yet? Caught a single one yet? Oh, no. The answer's no, isn't it? Nothing. Nada. No one. Zero. It's costing us a fortune. What are these people doing? It's an absolute joke. Let's talk to political columnist Robert Taylor. Hello, Robert.
Hello, Kevin.
I think I made my feelings fairly clear there. But just to put some meat on the bones of those statistics, I think it was last Thursday, a bumper 609 came across, 298 on Friday and 160 on Saturday. Mostly this time of year, it's usually naught. You don't get that many coming across because the weather's bad. But what we had Thursday, Friday, Saturday, little break in the weather, bang, they're all back in, coming across to be welcomed into the warm embrace of Britain's ridiculous asylum seeker system. But Yvette Cooper still won't put a target or a timeline on reducing this ongoing invasion. This is getting beyond a joke, isn't it?
Well, of course, before the election, they were all gung-ho about smash the gangs, as you say. They were all gung-ho about it was only Tory incompetence that meant that we had these small boat crossings. In other words, as usual, I'm afraid, just before the election, Labour overpromised, and then as soon as the election was in the bag, they under-delivered. Both of those, overpromising and under-delivering by a country mile. As far as I'm concerned, Kevin, sadly, they conned the public into thinking that if only they could get rid of the evil Tories, everything would be great in the world. We'd stop the gangs, we'd smash the gangs, we'd get the economy booming, we'd have the fastest growth in the G7, everything would be hunky-dory. What a load of old cobblers.
Yeah, well, it's nicely put. That's exactly what it is. I mean, there are one of two interpretations of what they promised the nation in the run-up to the election. One is that they were just barefaced lying, totally lying, but which I think to a large extent they were. We will solve the migrant crisis, they said, knowing that they would encounter great difficulties. But I do think that in their warped little Labour minds, they had actually convinced themselves that somehow or other, you know, left-wing socialist people are inherently better at stuff than those evil right-wing Tories. So I think they convinced themselves, once we get hold of the migrant crisis, we really will sort it out. But the truth is, it's hard to say this, it's no mean feat, because the Tories were utterly useless when it came to the migrant crisis and indeed a lot of other things. But the migrant crisis, just pathetic. But I'll hand it to Labour. No mean feat. They're even worse.
Well, yeah, definitely. In my book, they're even worse. Some of us were writing this before the general election, saying, please don't get taken in by this. You know, yeah, the Tories have been bad. They've let us down. But please don't be conned into thinking Labour's going to be any better. They won't be. They'll probably be worse. A lot of us were saying that and writing it. So you asked, Kevin, did Labour genuinely believe they were going to be better because they're left-wing? And I find it very difficult to answer that question because obviously I'm not on that side of politics. I just don't know whether they had not only conned the British people, but whether they had conned themselves. I just don't know because I can't get into that mindset. What I would say, Kevin, having seen Yvette Cooper's car crash for me interview with Laura Koonsberg on the BBC, she said one thing that was quite inadvertently funny, which is we don't govern by slogan. Well, what is smash the gangs, for heaven's sake? But then she said two things that I kind of agreed with, although she's got really no excuse for what's happened. She said we have a moral imperative to smash the gangs. Well, yeah, you do, but then you've got to do, if you have a moral imperative, you've actually got to do it. And secondly, one thing she did say, which I found really moving, it's awful, but it's true, is that women and children, and particularly children, are put in the middle of these horrible flimsy boats, so that when these boats actually capsize, the sides of the boat actually sort of come up and swallow up the kids who are instantly drowned. This is why we've got to stop these boats. It's not just because we've got too many illegal migrants. It's because innocent children are getting drowned in the Channel, and it's disgraceful, it's horrible. We've got to disincentivise it.
Yeah, she's playing on the heartstrings, saying, look, kids die when these crossings happen, which is why there should be far more of an imperative on Yvette Cooper and Keir Starmer, this entire government, to stop these boats. Kids are dying, people are dying. The death toll so far this year is around about 60. Many of them, as you say, children. 35,000, more than 35,000 foreigners have arrived on unlawful small boats this year. And since Labour took over, it's something like over 23,000 have come over. So that's since July the 5th, and that's 3,000 up on the same period last year. And Yvette Cooper, in that car crash interview with Laura Koonsberg, had the temerity to say, oh, I'm not going to put a number on it, I'm not going to put a figure, a cap figure on it, because the issue is too complex. No, it's not, actually. But what she did say, outrageously, was, but what I will tell you is the number of people coming across would be thousands higher under the Tories.
Yeah.
This narrative, this pathetic puppet narrative, this rhetoric about the Tories are worse, it would have been worse under the Tories. It's got to stop. It wouldn't have been worse under the Tories. These people, Cooper and Starmer, are making an absolute mess of this.
Yeah, I mean, in other words, she was saying something that could never be proved one way or the other, and that was her big statement. Things would be worse under the Tories. Well, we'll never know. For me, they were not going to be worse under the Tories. We had just finally got to the stage where the Rwanda plan was about to happen. And people say, well, the Rwanda plan wasn't going to work. Well, the Irish government, Kevin, thought that the Rwanda plan was working. They were complaining, was Ireland, that these migrants were coming through the UK and going straight on into Ireland because they were all worried about being transported off to Rwanda. So the Irish government thought it was working, but we didn't give it a fair chance. In fact, we didn't give it...
It didn't really start. It didn't start. That's what people always say. Well, Yvette Cooper and Starmer are wont to say the Rwanda scheme did not work. Well, folks, I've got news for you. The Rwanda scheme did not start. You didn't give it a chance. You junked it before it had a chance. So we now have no deterrent. That was a terrible, terrible decision. And, I say this every time, Robert, but I know that people in authority agree with me. I think you do too. Smashing the gangs is not a business model for solving the crisis. OK, smash the gangs. Smash all the gangs you like. Tomorrow, there will be new gangs. What you have to do is stop the migrants. This is supply and demand. As long as the migrants are coming to Calais and the north coast of France, there will be people smuggling gangs. So they're doing it the wrong way around. Stop the migrants, then there won't be any people smuggling gangs because there'll be no cargo for them. Simple as that.
You're absolutely right. That I do agree with you on that. There will always be criminals willing to take advantage of innocent people. Well, of course, some of them just want to come here for reasons that are not innocent, but there are other people who are innocent, who are drowning, because we haven't got this disincentive to stop them coming across. As far as I'm aware, Kevin, there are three ways that you can stop the boats. One is you can ignore international law, which is what Australia did. Finland has done in the summer, by the way, and I think Denmark has also done that.
Yep.
Two is you can change the international law. Well, there doesn't seem to be any sign of that happening anytime soon. Or number three, you can properly disincentivize people from coming across the channel. And we were trying number three because we're too scared, of course, to break international law. I think we're probably right to do that, but I know there are different views on that one.
Well, the other aspect of what Australia did that we should embrace, in my view, what they said was, look, you come across illegally without your documents, you land on our beaches on illegal vessels, you've broken our laws. So here's the deal. Your application for asylum is instantly, inherently negated. You broke our laws to come here. Therefore, you cannot have asylum in any way whatsoever. Secondly, you broke our laws, so you're being deported. So that, we could do that as well. That's a great disincentive. That's a great deterrent. So the prospect of getting sent to East Africa, to Rwanda, and or arrested and sent home, these are deterrents. That would stop them. That message gets out. The migrants would stop coming. But for some reason, our government doesn't seem to want to do this.
Well, I'm not going to get in the way of international human rights lawyers here, because they would be able to take you on that one, Kevin. But as far as I'm aware, what Australia did went against the Refugee Convention, which is part of international law. You need someone who's more expert than I am to talk about that. I'm not saying it can't be done, and maybe there's a moral right for it to be done, but I'm sure the lawyers would argue over whether you can get away with it under international law.
Well, one thing I would say, Robert, is if a human rights lawyer disagrees with you on anything, you're in the right. You're right. It's as simple as that.
Right there,
as simple as that. Listen, Robert, great to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. Always a pleasure. Robert Taylor there, political columnist.